Hi, I'm Dana Green Remedios with Healthy Wealthy Habits, and today I'm going to be talking about spoon theory. Maybe you've heard someone in your life describe themselves as a spoonie. Does that sound familiar? Spoon theory was developed by a chronic illness blogger, and she developed the idea of spoon theory to help to explain to a very good friend of hers the type of thing that she dealt with on the day-to-day as someone with lupus. So lupus is an autoimmune condition, and so many people have autoimmune conditions. 80% of the people that have an autoimmune disease are women, and a lot of the people who have chronic illnesses like chronic fatigue also happen to be women. But it could be anyone in your life that deals with any kind of chronic illness, including even a chronic mental illness like depression, who describes themselves as a spoonie and utilizes spoon theory to help to communicate some of what it is that they go through. So if you want to learn about spoon theory, stick with me today. I'm going to explain to you what it means to have a bouquet of spoons and how learning about spoon theory can help you to show up better for the spoonies in your life. So the spoon theory concept was developed when sitting in a diner with a friend, and the friend was saying, I know I spend days with you and I see what you go through as a person with lupus, but what is it really like to be you? What's it like to have this illness? And so the gathering up of spoons from around the diner took place, and the spoons were made to represent energy. And so this is managing your resources, managing your energy. And if you have a bouquet of spoons like this, you have finite resources. This is all you have for a certain amount of time. So these spoons may be all that I have for the rest of the week. And I have to decide how I'm going to manage my resources, how I'm going to manage these spoons so that I can last to the end of the week. Because if you run out of spoons before you run out of week, then you're going to be in bed or you're going to be basically disabled, right? So that's what it means to have a chronic illness, is that you're constantly thinking about how you're going to manage your resources so that you can make it through. And you might do it day by day, week by week, but overall, you have to think about managing your resources, whether those resources be your emotional regulation capacity or whether it's your actual physical energy, your mental energy for those people who have like really bad brain fog. It can be your ability to resist your addiction if you're a person that deals with an addiction. So whoever it is that you're dealing with in terms of like who's the spoonie in your life, their resources and what they're trying to manage might look a little bit different from person to person in terms of what their challenges are with what they struggle with having enough of in their life. But everyone who is a spoonie is someone who has something chronic that they're dealing with in their life, where they have a limited or finite amount of resources that they're always thinking about how they're going to allocate those so that they can get through. And so if you have a spoonie in your life, we can thank Christine Miserandino, I believe her name is, that she actually came up with the idea of what it means to be a spoonie. And she was explaining that even simple things that other people don't think about at all, that are like habitual for them, are things that a spoonie would have to think about. So even waking up in the morning, you're already down a spoon because you didn't sleep well, for example. It's very, very common for people that have depression, they don't sleep well. Or it's very, very common for people that have chronic pain, that they don't sleep well. It's very common even for people with chronic fatigue that they don't sleep well, which is ironic because, this is something that can happen with hormone problems, autoimmune problems. There's just dysregulation. So dysregulated immune and nervous systems can lead to these like dysregulated hormones and dysregulated circadian rhythms, and you just don't get a good enough sleep. So you're starting the day down a spoon from what a normal person might have because you didn't get a good enough sleep. And then if you're neurodivergent, for example, like I have ADHD, then when you're trying to do something like brush your teeth and floss your teeth, it's not a habit, even though you've done it every single day for your entire life and you are somebody who takes good care of their teeth. It is not a habit. You actually have to consciously think about brushing your teeth and flossing your teeth and going to make sure that it gets done. And it's not just going to be autopilot. So that takes some energy resources. It's a small spoon, but it's still a spoon that you have to spend to make sure that that gets done. And then if you're going to do something like you're going to shower, it's probably going to be another spoon. So for some people, showering is a very intense experience, especially if they are chemical sensitive. Then even the fluoride or the chlorine in the water may really affect them. I'm extremely sensitive to the smell smell of shampoo and conditioner and body wash. So when my son has a shower with all those scented products, I have a headache often from the other room, even with both doors closed for multiple hours. Like, I'm very sensitive to the perfume. So, for some people, temperature and water and these things, it's, the act of washing your hair and having to have your arms up for someone with chronic pain or fibromyalgia or something, this is definitely a spoon. And then trying to dry and style your hair after is going to be another spoon. So you have to decide, like, are you going to do that every day? Are you going to spend 2 spoons every day on that? Or are you going to do that only every few days? So, sometimes you might not understand why a spoonie in your life isn't taking care of the personal hygiene to the sort of standard that maybe you would set for yourself, but you have to understand that for them, those are definite spoon expenditures that they have to gauge, like, is it worth it or not? So even the way that you stand, like your posture, is going to contribute to how many spoons you have at the end of the day. Allergies and whether it's a really allergic day. Some of these things are not in your control, right? The amount of stress that you're to deal with, like in your commute or whatever, these things just might take spoons from you. You're not necessarily spending these spoons. They just get frittered away in ways that you're not necessarily choosing, but these things exist in your life, and so you do have to deal with it. And if you're a spoonie, then getting dressed is going to be something that might require some special attention. So if you have some types of neurodivergence, then you may feel really uncomfortable with certain types of textures on your skin. There may be days where there's only like 3 things in your closet that you can actually wear and feel comfortable in it. You don't want a waistband, you don't want anything constricting you, you can't wear a bra, and so you have to think about, what can I wear that's going to be appropriate for the environment that I'm going to be in, but is going to be something I can also live with. It's not going to be actually literally exhausting to me to wear it today. So that takes a spoon. Now, if you've gotten dressed, you're not even eaten. So you have to think about, what am I going to eat? Because if you skip eating, then you're going to lose a spoon for sure. But it's also going to take a spoon to make something to eat. And you have to not just make any food, because if you're someone who is a spoonie, a chronic illness person, then you likely, for example, if you have an autoimmune disease, you will likely avoid gluten and try and get as much vitamin D as possible. There are certain things that kind of go with the territory for managing what it is that you have. And some spoonies are going to have to avoid different categories of foods that they're sensitive to, like salicylates or histamines. So there's a whole bunch of work that goes into just learning, like, where are salicylates in foods? Where are histamines in foods? Where is gluten? And if you're a spoonie, you know that takes mental energy to always plan a meal that other people in your family want to eat, that you want to eat. So making sure that food is in your house has already cost you a spoon. And now you have to make sure a smaller spoon to prepare that into something that you can eat for today and pack yourself a lunch or something, because you can't just stop and get any lunch when you're out if you're a spoonie, because you can't just eat anything or it'll cause a setback or a flare. So you add that to the pile too. Now, there are things once you leave the house that can certainly be triggering, and sometimes work can be a really hard one. So you set aside a fair amount of energy, a great big spoon, for your workday, because you have to keep your job, because it's really important. So you're going to show up cheerful, energetic, focused. You're going to provide, good service for internal and external stakeholders and maintain your good reputation. So you use a really big spoon at work, and while you're there, there may be some unplanned for expenditures, because sometimes stressful things just come up. There's like some technology problems or some other kind of thing that is friction that makes it difficult for you. So you don't plan on that one, but you do end up spending that spoon. So of course, you may, if you are someone who's dealing with a chronic illness, you may have an appointment after work to take care of something to do with your health. You may have a doctor appointment, for example. I recently was getting some body work, and unfortunately, because I'm someone that has PTSD, body work was super, super triggering, because it's a great way to process these things out somatically from your body, but it really loosened up and re-triggered a lot of PTSD type stuff, so trauma type stuff. And that actually was so intense for me. It was something that made me feel really run down, but I was feeling run down, but we had tickets to go out, and I wanted to go out because going out with people gives me spoons. It gives me energy. It makes me happy. Going out with my partner, who I love, it makes me happy, especially to see him happy. So I knew that going out was going to definitely take a spoon. In fact, it was going to take a big spoon, because I'm not very good at staying up late at night, and we were going to have to stay up late to keep our plans, and I was already tired, so I knew it was going to spend a big spoon doing that. But I didn't realize that while I was out, I was going to also get expensive exposed to some really bad germs. So then I end up losing a spoon to the hit that it had on my immune system while I was already worn down emotionally because of the trauma retriggering and physically, mentally, because it was the end of the week. I just had a really long week. So that is where, as a spoonie, I have fewer spoons to get through the rest of the week now than I had planned. And when I got sick, I don't really have the spoons to get myself better in the way that I would like. So when I'm trying to help or show up or be in control for other people, then it's hard for me to be someone that doesn't really have any spoons left because I want to show up for other people and help them. So it's really interesting. When I got sick, I couldn't do anything for the first few days. I couldn't even plug in and charge my phone, let alone sit and scroll on my phone. I was just out. I was just knocked out, tired, sleeping. And that was just the way that I had to go through this particular bout of illness. And, I was eating some Manuka honey, drinking some tea, but I was basically not eating anything either. I couldn't function. And it was only after many days of being sick and being on the mend that I actually felt well enough to just even sit on the couch and watch TV and pet the cat. So I did that. And I found a show called New Amsterdam. And maybe you've seen that show, but it's a medical drama. And I used to be hooked on Grey's Anatomy, but there were parts of it that I found frustrating. They just would get into these ridiculous sexual situations with each other that were totally inappropriate for work, and other really far-fetched things would happen there. And I found New Amsterdam to be a lot of the things that I liked about Grey's Anatomy, but not a lot of the more ridiculous aspects and the over hyper-sexualizing. So I was getting really into this show while I'm sitting there being sick. I was kind of enjoying binging a few episodes in a row, and it really helped me to process this idea of illness when you're trying to show up and be helpful and can keep your life under control, but you get sick. Because the lead character in this show, he's actually coming in to be the new hospital director, and yet at the very same time gets diagnosed with cancer. And so he's got a stage 4 cancer that he's trying to deal with. And I think seeing him grappling with that and seeing that, we can treat pain, we can deal with the idea of pain, we can deal with the idea of what you can and what you cannot control, about letting people in, relying on people versus trying to do everything yourself. I think it was a really cathartic show to watch, and I found it really, really helpful as someone who was dealing with the reality of being sick, to see people working out creative ways to solve problems related to that kind of environment of dealing with sick people. I found it really put me in a good state of mind to actually watch people being so creative with how to manage in the healthcare system. And so I just thought I would share that. I think that when you have a chronic illness, you're always wondering, is there a cold or flu or autoimmune pain flare or inflammation that is going to come along and is going to set me back? And when these things set you back, it can cause brain fog. It can cause you to suddenly fall into a depression. It can cause you to have a flare up of a lot of old symptoms that have gone away that might be cognitive or other kinds of symptoms or physical symptoms. I know that for people that have traumatic brain injury, it's definitely a non-linear progression of getting better, where sometimes you definitely overdo it and then you have a setback. So people like us, Spoonies, what we often do is, just because we know that I might get sick, we try and keep one of these as a reserve and hide it away and pretend that we don't have it and save it for a rainy day, just in case. And so I try and always keep one just for physically being able to take care of myself. I keep some for my family members, including my family members that require a lot of patience. And I keep those extra spoons in my pocket for just in case. And this particular week, what happened is I somehow realized, you know what? A couple things came up. They took my spoons. Oh my God, something else came up, took my spoon. I'm out of spoons. And so I was literally knocked out and down. I was so sick. I couldn't even call people and tell them I was sick. That's how sick I was. So the point is, if you are ever wondering why this friend of yours seems like they've become more flaky, they make a plan with you at the beginning of the week, but by the end of the week, they decide that they can't keep that plan. Or they're supposed to be your bestie and they're supposed to be out with you all night celebrating. And they're what, after dinner, they're that's it. I can't go out for the rest of the night. I gotta go home. Or they don't even come out to the dinner. And it seems like that's happening more and more. Or if it just seems like you have to be the one, like the bigger person, like you have to, instead of meeting in the middle, you have to go a little bit further every time to come closer to where they are, or anything like that, where it just seems like you're always having to accommodate them. Just realize that they are very much trying to still do all the things, and that includes being friends with you, and they literally can't do it all. And they have to make these really difficult choices where they can choose to go out with you and keep the promise that they made to go out with you. But, you know, it might just take them an entire week to recover, or 2 weeks to recover, just like I decided to go out with my partner and keep our plans, even though I knew I was tired. And then I lost a full week of work, and I lost a full week of everything. Like, I didn't even get to just like have fun while I was homesick. Like, I was just too sick to even do anything. So just so that you understand spoon theory and what it's like for spoonies, maybe it'll help you to understand that friend of yours a little bit better. Maybe it helps you to understand your partner a little bit better, and what it's like to be a spoonie, and how come sometimes it's fine and sometimes it's not fine, and some of the trade-offs that are involved in making these decisions. So thank you for listening, and thank you for joining me. I hope that you liked learning about spoon theory, and leave me a comment below if you learned something interesting today, or if you have a story to tell about being a spoonie yourself. Okay, bye for now.